Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John Lawrence. I'm the Government Sector Workforce Coordinator as well as the Rapid Response Coordinator here at the Fresno Regional Workforce Development Board. Today we're here to talk about government jobs and why you would want one. I know it's a big topic and it's a huge decision for an individual to decide whether or not they want to go into the government agencies or if they want to go into the private sector and gain employment. So we're here to talk a little bit about that today. We do have with us today an individual from PSI, which is the Police Science Institute. He's going to talk about training and things like that, which we may be able to offer if you are enrolled with Workforce Connections. We'll be able to fund that training for you, and there's a lot of elements to that, which Annette Watkins will talk about at the very end of our presentation. Also, we have a member from the Fresno Police Department that will be joining us, and they're going to talk about some of the various jobs they have, and hopefully he will be logged in very shortly. In the meantime, I'm just going to kind of go over a couple of points, maybe a little bit of housekeeping, and just talk about government jobs and why you might want to consider that as a career path. So please leave your microphones muted if you don't mind during this. We are recording this session and we will be using it for marketing purposes as well. So please do that. If you do have any questions, you are more than welcome to unmute yourself, ask any questions. We just don't want to have any feedback from the background noise. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward here. So like I said, I have a big long-winded title, so we won't go over that again. Sergeant Marcus Gray will be joining us shortly from the Fresno Police Department. And then we have Annette Watkins, our outreach specialist. And Derek, I do apologize. I didn't have time to get your name put on this slide. I owe you a deep apology, sir. But we do have an introduction of him here momentarily. So a lot of you might be wondering, what do you consider to be a government agency? So most agencies consist of local government, which would be the city and the county. Here, obviously, it's the city of Fresno and the county of Fresno. Then you have state agencies. You have federal agencies, and then we would move into the education element, which a lot of people tend to forget that a lot of our institutes, whether it be Fresno State or any of those academia, they are technically government jobs. So that's another element of government there. And this is just some projections that I wanted you to see. Fresno County projected government employment by 2022, so just next year, to be up to about 67,000 people employed with the government agency. That's a huge number. And as you see, statewide in California, I mean, this was back in 2016, but still 2.5 million people almost. I mean, that's just an astronomical number of people in our state that are working in some type of a government agency. So I think those are numbers to really keep in mind whenever we're considering what path we want to take. With numbers like that, there's obviously room for growth. So here we come, and yes, I'm saying it's a choice because it is. Once you decide whether or not you want to go in the public sector or private sector, normally it's a career path we stick with, correct? So private sector, there's a lot of benefits to working in the private sector. Sometimes you can get a little bit more as far as salary-wise. That's not necessarily true anymore, but in the past it was. There was oftentimes you could get the same exact job doing the same type of delivery service or whatever it might be, customer service, and you might make $1 less or 50 cents less per hour if you're working in the public sector versus the private sector. However, the government has decided, you know what, that's not very realistic, and how are we going to obtain great employees if we keep doing that? So they became much more competitive with their salary wages. But I think one of the elements that we oftentimes forget about is we forget about the benefits packages, which far outweigh the benefits packages that you're going to get in the private sector. And I'm going to show you a slide that kind of represents that here in just a moment. So according to data from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, government jobs have become more competitive with salaries and benefits, and that is true. Job security is a major factor. I mean, let's be honest, when you're working with the government agency, typically they're unionized. There's a lot of job security with that, a lot of protection for you, and a lot of people really enjoy having that benefit for them. They are looking for technical skills and experience initially, but they do also look at the soft skills. And that's something new that in government, well, I shouldn't say new, but they've been focusing more on that recently, is soft skills is definitely a huge need in government agencies. So I'm delighted that they are paying attention to that. Now this is some information. I just want to give you an example of what I was talking about pay scale. Now this is a couple of years old, I won't lie. They pay us slightly more than that, but you can see FedEx doing deliveries. This was, like I said, a couple of years ago, but you're looking at about $12 an hour, $13 an hour starting most of the time. But with the US Postal Service, people are making $17 to $18 an hour starting. So, I mean, that's a huge jump in numbers. And that's just one example. Granted, there are some variations to this. They're not always that far apart, but some of them are. And I just wanted to bring that to light. Here's another thing. I mean, let's talk about benefits. You know what I mean? I love this little cartoon here. You know, they're trying to cut our pension. It's the public sector, you know, and then the private sector is, okay, what's a pension? I'm sure many of you can attest, if you've had a job in any private sector, you've realized that, hey, they may not have a 401k. They may not have a retirement plan. They may not have something set up for you. And that's something that's really, you know, you need to put some thought into. Most government agencies, particularly with the city of Fresno, if you're employed there for about 5 years, you're vested in your retirement, in your benefits package. So just some things that you want to think about and consider, because there is a dollar amount to that, and it's rather large. So just think about that as you're considering your career path. I talked a little bit about the compensation. So as you can see, let's talk about the benefits first, which is the lighted shade color on the very top of these graphs. You can see that if you had a high school diploma or some college or bachelor's degree, your benefits packages are vastly larger than what you're going to get in the private sector, okay, if you're working with a government agency. Now, if you looking at the wages down below, or sorry, let's move on over to the master's degree or higher, even still the benefits packages are still smaller. Even if you're working as with a PhD or professional degree and working for a Fortune 500 company, your benefits packages typically will not outdo a federal benefits package. So that's just also something else to think about. And as you can see, the average federal wages, which is the darker colors down at the bottom, versus the average private sector wages, up to the point where you get to a bachelor's degree, which is where they even out. If you have some college or less, you're typically going to make more money working at a government agency versus working in the private sector. And that does kind of take a little bit of a turn, a little bit as you get into the master's degree. Then they start taking a little bit higher pay wage, and if you're working as a PhD or professional degree. All right. So government growth, and I'm going to go over this very quickly because this is something I think most of us have probably heard about, but if not, the silver tsunami. So the silver tsunami, what that is we have a large population, our baby boomers and things like that, we're right in the midst of them retiring, and they're taking a lot of great knowledge with them. And while they're retiring, first of all, it's a win for them. Congratulations to everyone retiring. The other great thing about the retirees is it's opening up opportunity for everyone else to gain those positions, right? So that's another thing we want to think about, and especially right now with so many people that are on the cusp of retirement, consider that as a career path for yourself. So let me just to kind of show you the average age of the population. This is a little bit old information, but it's still true today. You can see the average age is about 41 years old. And so if anyone had started working with a government agency, I can tell you right now, some of them, if you're starting at a young age, you can retire as early as 50, 55 years old. I've heard of it even a little bit earlier. So getting started at a young age is ideal. So you can retire early and be fully vested in your benefits. So I'm just going to touch base on this really quickly because I want to make sure I get to my next presenter here. So these are some of the basic things whenever they're looking for skills and requirements with government agencies. Obviously, anything would help as far as hard skills, Microsoft Office, math skills, trade specifics, things of that nature. The other thing that we want to take into consideration are the soft skills: showing up to work on time, willing to work hard, not using your cell phone while you're at work constantly. I mean, the employers definitely want to have people doing their jobs, but it's just some of those things. Keep in mind when you're looking at these career paths, this is some of the stuff they're going to be looking for. And this is just a very quick snippet. I really want you to pay attention to the back side of the screen here, the purple and the pink area. So this is administrative clerk versus an accountant clerk and those types of positions, entry levels, and what are some of the requirements they're looking for. And you can see it's really, I mean, it's really not that outlandish. They're not asking for bachelor's degrees. They're not asking for, you know, masters or anything like that. They're looking for, you know, maybe a typing certificate. You know, bilingual is usually preferred, especially, you know, here in the Central Valley. You know, there are some other things that, you know, if you're a male, you might be required to be registered with Selective Services, and that's pretty standard. But other than that, there's really nothing prohibiting, you know, anybody from gaining employment with the government agency. And just another quick little snippet. So basic employment requirements might be a GED or high school diploma, which is very typical. 18 years or older, be able to pass a background check, drug screening, maybe a TB screening, depending on the department you're applying for, and must meet minimum math and reading levels. Sometimes they do give you some type of a prerequisite. I know we also do the same thing here at Workforce as well. So Annette will discuss that a little bit later on. And these are just a very small handful of all the different trade schools and stuff that we work with here locally, where we can actually help you with training. We can fund the training. We can also pay for any types of supplies you may need with our supportive services. But again, that's something Annette will probably touch more base on at the end. So this is very brief that I'm going to let you know. So we have the City of Fresno Police Department here today, Mr. Sergeant Gray. I believe I've seen you in the room, sir. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you today?
Doing great. Good to see you. Excited to be presenting with you today. I know you guys have a lot going on over there at the police department and a lot of great jobs, both for the public and for people that have passed their post certifications.
No, absolutely, absolutely. There's a wide range of things that we're offering here at the city. So I'm excited to at least talk to you guys about it, answer any questions that you have, and hopefully point you in the right direction if I don't have the answer. So my name is Marcus Gray II. I'm a sergeant here with the Fresno Police Department. I've been employed with the police department for about 14 years. I started as a police cadet. It's a program that I'm now fortunate enough to be the supervisor over, which is kind of a testament to looking at dreams and having a dream and essentially and living it out. Because I said all those years ago, I was like, man, if I ever had the opportunity to run this unit, man, this would be great. And fast forward to now, and here I am. So speaking into existence, but I digress. So I was a police cadet. From then I went on to be a patrol officer. I did that for several years. I also was a member of the SWAT team for a few years. I did investigations, the traffic unit, a couple different TAC teams as well. And then I had the opportunity to promote to sergeant, and did a couple years on patrol. And then here I got placed over the background investigations, the field training program, as well as the cadet program and recruiting, which is why I'm here today. So our police department, we have the numbers that are just slightly changing. We have a new police chief. It's Chief Paco Balderrama. We have about 838 authorized positions, but we've just upped that to 850. So we have a little hill to climb. The data is just a little bit old. Total authorized positions right now, we have about 787 filled. So we have a little ways to go, which is why we're pushing so hard to find those men and women that are qualified to do this job, that are really looking forward and looking for a career and with a public service, not just through the police department, because we have lots of different jobs. And of the 800 officers is broken down, we have 1 chief, 4 deputy chiefs, 7 captains, 21 lieutenants, 95 sergeants. So you can see we're pretty balanced as far as organizational goes. Our vacancies they're up. They are up. Like I said, these numbers, they fluctuate every month from the sergeants we've had retired to the officers that are retiring. So we're actively looking for people who want to come to the agency. But in our agency, we have 4 patrol shifts. Those patrol shifts are a 4-10 schedule. It's a platoon schedule. And what that 4-10 schedule is you work, so it's a platoon schedule. So you work 5 days 1 week, and then 3 days the next week, and you have a string of days off. So a typical schedule is you'll work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You'll have Saturday and Sunday off, and Monday and Tuesday off, and then you come back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that next weekend you'll work Saturday and Sunday. So it flip-flops like that, flip-flops week to week, just like that. The schedules specifically are broken up from day shift, which is 6 to 5. You have a lap shift, which is 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 12 o'clock at night. You have our swing shift hours, which is 4 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the overnight shift, which is my personal favorite, 9 at night to 7 in the morning. And each of those shifts, they're split between Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, and Central, are all the different 5 policing districts. Our city is about 114 square miles in total. So in that, we have even some rural parts of the city that we policed in. There's a lot of county pockets that are unincorporated, that we work hand in hand with the sheriff's department. And as you all know, we butt right up against Clovis, so we work hand in hand with them as well as far as our policing efforts. So there's a big communication thing between agencies, between us, the sheriff's department, and Clovis PD, and we all work, and as well as CHP, because they're the kings of the roads that run down the center of our city. And there's the shifts that I just explained: 6 to 4, 2 to midnight, 4 to 2 in the morning, and 9 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. It's the good old sun up shift. All right, go ahead. So we're actively recruiting for different positions. With our city, the police officer recruit, the base pay for a police officer recruit, and this is just starting pay, and it scales over several different steps. But our base salary for police officer recruit is $49.95 a month. After you reach G step, so the steps are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once you get to G step, the base pay tops out at $77.35. And every year you get about $1,300 in uniform allowance. That way you can buy new uniforms, or me, I buy shirts and ties, because this is my current uniform of the day. And so just the base pay is the base pay. So throughout the city, we also have different differential pays that you'll qualify for. So for example, when I was working the midnight shift, when I worked on mids, I would get an extra $240 a month for watching the sun go down and up every day. Same with every shift that's there. When I was on the motors for a while, it was $546 extra a month for the hazard pay, as well as a $275 for special duty pay. And special duty is like similar to a unit that I'm in now in recruiting, where it's not general police work. It requires some specialty knowledge for you to perform in that field. So we have different special units that receive that special duty pay, and those would be some of the TAC teams, like Magic. We have like the CCAT, like Major Narcs, and some of the smaller detective units as well that get that special unit pay, as well as flex pay. Flex pay is the gift that keeps on giving. What that is specifically is they say, hey, we need you to come in tomorrow at 8 o'clock, even though it's not your regular shift. And you show up tomorrow at 8 o'clock because you received that flex pay, which is $275. And that's one of the things that I received on motors, or people that receive in special units that are similar to motors, is they need that flexibility. So they'll give you a little bit extra compensation to make sure that you're compensated for your flexibility and that you'll show up on those days. And then also we have our FTOs, or our corporals, who are our training officers. They get $500 extra a month for corporal, and senior officer pay, which is $250 to $300, and that's years down the line. 10 years of experience, you now qualify for senior officer. And finally, there are post incentives. So the peace officer standards and training post, we have different certificates from basic, intermediate to advanced, supervisory, and management. So once you reach your intermediate, you get 5% increase on your base pay. So the nice thing about it being a percentage is because it's a percentage increase. Every time your base pay increases, the amount of money you get for that certificate pay increases. And it maxes out at 9% when you get your advanced. And you get those certificates from having different levels of education and experience within the job. If you were to be a police officer right now and you had a bachelor's degree, in 6 years, you could qualify for your advanced certificate. So that's 6 years that you would get it sooner. If you had a master's, you can get it in 4. If you had a doctorate, you get it in 2. But in 6 years, you get experience. Versus having 0 college, that 9%, you don't get it for 12 years. So education in this field, there's a big push for education. And so it's important to make sure you're actively getting your education so you have those degrees, because in the long run, it really pays off.
I think it's really important too to point out, I'm glad you provided me with this slide, because I think it's amazing the amount of extra money you can get for working different shifts and things like that. I can tell you in the private sector, I've worked in industries where they have multiple shifts, and I was lucky to get 25 or maybe 50 cents an hour bump. So what you guys are offering is incredible compared to that.
Yeah. It's really amazing. I won't name the retailer because I don't know what form this is, but I worked at a retailer prior to this. And at that retailer, I was sitting in the office and they were like, hey, you're going to get a 25-cent raise. And I was like, yes. And here, and I would work. My hours were odd. Sometimes I worked overnight. Sometimes I worked in the daytime. The benefits weren't there. And so coming over here, it was a completely different shell. It was like, hey, you're getting compensated at these levels. And I knew exactly where they were. It was fair. And I'm like, oh, okay, coming over as a 19-year-old kid, I'm like, this is great. I like this.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. So right now, our top step officer pay, so top step with all the incentives you would qualify for, is about $9,200 a month, which is about $110,000 a year. And that's without working any overtime or special events. And there's overtime at the mall, there's overtime at the concerts, there's overtime just in general patrol shifts. So if you wanted to, and we have seen officers that are particularly dedicated to a task, they come in and they work a lot of overtime and they can substantially increase their pay from 110 to 150, 180 one officer did, but he worked all the time. So in addition to regular pay, there's also sick pay. So every month you accrue 7.5 hours of sick pay, which that roughly equates to about $286. Vacation pay, the starting officer gets about 8.6 hours. Now that time increases, so the longer you're here, you start to accrue more hours every single month. So a 25-year veteran officer gets about 17 vacation hours every month they can use for vacation. So in the department, a lot of people try to cue in on what we offer, the different positions and different units. The one you see the most is police officer, right? Basic patrol. And they get the most face time because they're out in the public. They're usually the first responders to calls. But here at the police department, we have a variety of different special units that we offer. And literally, every time you go to a different unit, it honestly feels like a career change every single time you move. I've been fortunate enough to have been on several of these units, and every time I go, it's like starting a brand new job at a brand new place. And there's brand new things to learn. There's brand new people to meet. There's a whole new mission to accomplish. And so at working here, you're not just, it's nice because you're just not stuck to one mundane task. It continuously evolves and it moves. So just some of those units that I've been fortunate enough to work on were the motor unit. I worked on the TAC team when we were there. I was out on SWAT for a while. I did SVB, the investigations, felony assault. So I've had, it's in every single time, every couple of years, it's like a whole new career change. One day I'll make it out to vice intelligence. That'll be fun, but yeah, I'll set that as a future career goal for myself. We have the only regional training center in the Central Valley. So we're home to the largest regional training center. And this is actually a great shot. It doesn't even catch it all. But we have our own driving course with the high-speed turn and banking, which has got the top left of that photograph. In the center of it, a skid pan, where you kind of learn how to drive in inclement weathers, where that whole surface gets wet down. And so you can induce hydroplaning and spins, so you can train to drive out of those situations. I said the high-speed track, where you get comfortable with pursuit driving and high-speed driving, and make sure that you're able to do it, one, effectively, but even more important than that, safely. So our retirement system, I think some of it's been hit on already, but our retirement system is one of the only fully funded retirement systems in the nation, not just in the state, in the nation. That last tally was over 100% funded, which is an interesting note for retirement systems in general, which means stability. It means when in 25, 30 years, when you go to retire, you're not like, oh, I wonder if they're going to pay me this week. It's the blanket that you need when you're going into your retirement years, where you know that you have a secure source of funding. Go ahead and take a couple slides forward. We also have, just hold it there for a second. We also have what's called drop, and it allows you to retire, but still it's a third retirement system, essentially, where you can put your money into a special account where it starts to incur interest. And then that interest, as you stay for a few years after your pre-retirement, it starts to compound, and you can end up with a substantial chunk of money that to supplement your pension, your deferred compensation, if you do that, and then as well as your drop. And deferred compensation is essentially a 401k, but the money comes out pre-tax instead of post-tax, which allows you to bring your tax rate down. So when you're doing your taxes, if you made 110,000, let's say you put $10,000 into your deferred comp. Now your tax rate's not at 110,000, it's at 100,000 because you put 10,000 away pre-tax. So it brings your tax rate down. It's the simplest way to explain it. So amongst all the different jobs that we're having, from police officer recruit to cadet, and I'm not going to name even the civilian positions, from dispatcher to community police support services tech, as well as clerk, our crime scene investigations. We have CSOs. All of it starts here at Fresno FPDjobs.com. You can find all of those jobs when the requisitions are open via that link, fpdjobs.com, and then there's a search for jobs function on that page. But the general hiring section is all the same for every single one of those positions. You submit the application. From the application, you'll have an oral interview. And after that oral interview, a list gets created of qualified individuals. And from that list, you'll go on to a personal history statement onto a polygraph. And after the polygraph, you go through a pretty extensive background investigation. Our background investigations for all of our sworn dispatchers and police officers, they're post-regulated. So Peace Officer Standards and Training says we have to do a thorough background check to ensure the moral turpitude of the officers that we're employing, as well as the dispatchers that we have. So that background check has to be thorough. And just to take it one step further, we do it for all of the employees that we employ. So even though Post only says we have to do it for police officers, we do it for every single employee that we employ. That way we make sure we have the best of the best. Well, I do the background investigation sergeant as well. And one thing that we look at is we look for the biggest thing. It's not so much the mistakes that you've made in your past. I mean, yeah, they can hold you back. If you got a DUI yesterday, yeah, you're probably not going to be a police officer tomorrow. It's just the nature of it. But if you got a DUI 5 years ago and then you lied about it to me, well, that shows a moral character thing. So now those are the things that hold you up. So I always tell people, it's not about what you've done. It's about how you respond to who you are. Because God knows I'm not perfect, never have been, probably never will be. I've made mistakes, but those are mistakes of not mistakes of character. They're honest mistakes, and those can be looked at. So make sure that when you're submitting through the process, not just for police officer, not just for cadet, but for dispatcher, for everything, it's honesty and integrity and growth. I'm not the same person I was when I was 16 years old. And I'm definitely not the same person I was yesterday, but it's about growth and becoming a better version of yourself. After the background is the final interview. For all of our sworn positions, there's a final chief's interview, which is usually with a lieutenant and 2 sergeants. And sometimes the chief does step in on some applicants. And after that chief sworn, you get a conditional, psychological, and a med, which are only for officers. All the other civilian personnel don't go through psych and med. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Obi's the main recruiter. Eric also assists. You can shoot us an email. Those are our email addresses. You can also call our desk phone. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for all that, Sergeant Mark, or Sergeant Gray, I should say. I do want to touch base on something, because you did mention a couple of the more civilian positions. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that just a little bit, because I think a lot of people have this notion that whenever they're applying for any government job, like I said, it's usually for politics, being a politician, trying to run for mayor or something like that, or they think it's strictly only clerical type jobs. And so I really wanted to let them know that, especially with the police department, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have a wide variety of job openings. I mean, there's janitors that are there. You guys have records keeping, you guys have so administrative and various types of jobs. And so someone from that may not have went through post certification or went to the police academy or something, they could still get employment with the police department, correct?
No, absolutely. There are a wide array of jobs at the police department. We have almost 600 civilian employees that work different jobs, from records to CSI techs to janitors to general maintenance. We have a computer ISD guys. I mean, everything. So, I mean, it takes a lot to really run this ship. Police officers in uniform, that's just one thing, right? There's so much more that actually makes it functional. Dispatchers, we literally cannot function without all of the civilian personnel that we have, or I'm gonna correct it, professional staff that we have, because they are true professionals in this field. And then they're the reason how we're able to do what we do on the street. And without one little piece of each one of the people here, the department falls apart.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to highlight that a little bit for anyone that might be interested, and maybe you're interested in being a police officer, but you want to get your foot in the door. Go in there, work in records, work in dispatching, work as a janitor. God, I don't know. Once you get in there, you got your foot in the door, you're a step closer, get into the academy and keep going. Move on to the Police Science Institute. Derek?
Thank you. My name is Derek Kumagai. I work here at the Police Science Institute. It's a school that's been open since 1991. It is a law enforcement and civilian training facility, and yearly we train about 10,000 civilians. We kind of are a stepping stone, so kind of following up what Sergeant Gray had to say about what they have to offer and the positions they have. This is kind of one of those things, if you didn't know this was the line of work that you wanted to go into, or didn't know if you would have the qualifications, or maybe just even the something to kind of give you that stepping stone to get in there. We have a lot of positions that do go into government sectors, and we work with workforce to get you the program paid for and get you the training that you need and the certifications. And it's along the way that also it kind of gives you a better idea and grasp of the different aspects. So when Sergeant Gray was talking about some of the civilian positions that they have, those are a lot of things that we kind of help people and guide them into those positions as well. So speaking of just their CSI, talking about the civilian positions that are peripheral to the police officer, there's a lot of things that we have to offer in the training that will help be funded through the workforce program. So we have a 4-week program that is funded, and during that program you receive all the certifications and permits through the state that'll make you a licensed private security officer. We have a very low student to instructor ratio. So what we do is kind of focus in on some of the skills, and from like de-escalation and into public relations, all the way into some of the other things that people have interest in. And that could be investigations, and that can be going into the private investigator section as well. Private investigators are used primarily in the Central Valley for court testimony, for surveillance, for workers' comp investigations. We do have a lot of the programs that will feed into some of the courthouses, the hospitals, probation, and the military. We are Monday through Friday. We have a pretty flexible schedule, so we know some people that are coming to the program, they want to start working right away. So your first week that you're with us, you maintain a lot, or you'll obtain a lot of your certificates that allow you to start working in private security. We also work with a lot of local companies with the recruiters, and they come into the program looking for the graduates because they know they're leaving here with all the certificates and permits that are needed so they can start working and stay valid for at least 2 years. Our next slide kind of explains the certificates and permits that you will receive through here. And it's, like I said, fully funded by workforce when you come through that program, but it's just some of the things that when people ask questions about what it is that's offered at the school, it's something that we want to make sure that you not only obtain those certificates, but you're also proficient in those. So a lot of our instructors are retired law enforcement and military. Going down to the next slide, we kind of trying to speed through this a little bit. First question we get asked is, what kind of jobs are there in private security right now? And so we like to focus on some of the higher paying positions. That's the courthouses, the hospitals. Anthony was one of the ones that came to the program, and he ended up at Triple Canopy, which is one of the federal security programs that pays higher. And they have Social Security, the IRS building, federal courthouse. We do have people that come through that want to go into armored transport. We have bank security. We do send people straight into some of the tribal reservations, so like Table Mountain, Tachi, and Chukchansi. And people ask, well, what's the range of the pay? And it varies a lot from depending on where it is that you want to end up at. So it does range from the $14 to $34 an hour. Larger companies right now they have signing bonuses and will offer healthcare, 401k. And as I was trying to say before with what Sergeant Gray was saying, is it is a good pathway for you if you are looking to go into law enforcement or even one of the other careers that are in the city, which is crime scene investigations and so forth. So we have a very high success rate in placing people in jobs. We have a very high rate of completion, meaning that the people that start here will finish here. And we just like to keep our grasp on you and make sure that you're continuing to grow wherever you're at, whether it's in law enforcement or whether it's in security or wherever you're at. We like to maintain that family atmosphere here and make sure we help you wherever way we can.
Hopefully all of you have gathered some information today, which is, very important to you. So we kind of covered a lot, right? I mean, we have an employer online for you today that can really tell you about all the various jobs they have out there, the benefits packages, which I think are highly, highly important. We talked about pay scales and things like that. We also had a training provider on for you today, so that you can see there is a training path. If you feel like you need that, we're able to assist you with that. And then last but not least, we had Workforce Connection online today so that we can help you with the processes, get you ready for all of it, all the preparation. So as you can see, we're dedicated to a continual pipeline of trying to get individuals at the state that you want to be, into the career that you want to be in. So please reach out to us anytime you like, reach out to any of our offices. We're happy to work with you and look forward to hearing your success story in the upcoming months. So having said that, you all have a great day, and thank you for joining us today's session of government information. Have a great day, everybody.